We have finally arrived at the last rumors and tidbits that need to be spoken about concerning currently in production Game of Thrones spin-offs. Maybe the names in the title of this video didn't say much to you, and that's no surprise, as little to no information can be found regarding these projects. So in this video, which will be the fifth and last of this series, we'll speak about Bloodmoon, Flea Bottom and the other Game of Thrones spin-offs that are rumored to exist, or have existed once. Welcome to the Boar and the Lion. If you like this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot with creating future videos. And to everyone who is already subscribed, thank you very much for your support. Let's start with the one we know most about, Bloodmoon. Or, as George kept calling it insistently throughout its production, The Long Night. Which would have been a better name. And yes, you heard me say throughout its production, because this potential spin-off was actually made into a pilot, and thereafter cancelled. A pilot for Bloodmoon was ordered by HBO in 2018, with George R.R. Martin mentioned as a co-producer. The pitch for this pilot was written by Jane Goldman, a critically acclaimed writer who is known for writing on movies as Kick-Ass, multiple X-Men movies and the Kingsman movie franchise. As the name George gave this prequel might tell, the focus of this series would be the period of time known in Westerosi history as the Long Night. We've heard the name before in Game of Thrones, when Old Nan tells Bran bedtime stories about spiders big as hounds. The Long Night was a period in time that happened roughly 8,000 years before the events of a Game of Thrones. It happened during the Age of Heroes, an age in which many of the famous great houses were founded. Bran the Builder founded House Stark, Len the Clever founded House Lannister, and Durran Godsgrief built the castle of Storm's End and wedded the daughter of the gods. During the Long Night, not just Westeros, but the entire known world was hit with the longest and most terrible winter ever seen. And with it came demons wielding shards of ice, called the Others or the White Walkers. There is no written history about this period and all the events that transpired, except how it ended. The last hero, a mythical figure in the history of the North, traveled far north and found the remaining children of the forest. With their help, and probably with the use of dragonglass, the men of Westeros defeated the White Walkers in the Battle for the Dawn, and drove them back to the lands of always winter. The men who defeated them afterwards became the first members of the newly founded Night's Watch. Together with Bran the Builder, the giants and the children of the forest, they built a wall to protect the realms of men against any future attack. This could be a very interesting story to portray on television, and apparently HBO thought the same. A script was written, actors were hired and a pilot episode was made. And based on this pilot episode, HBO made the decision to not go through with this series. And honestly, I don't think we should be all too sad about this one. While doing research on Bloodmoon for this video, the series and production gave me an uneasy feeling. For multiple reasons, I think this could have been Game of Thrones' counterpart of The Witcher Blood Origin. And I don't think anybody wants that to happen. It has grasped my attention though, so we will come back to Bloodmoon in a more in-depth video in the future. The second spin-off we are going to discuss today is kind of a weird story. One of the original pitches presented to HBO was for a prequel focused on Aegon's Conquest. It had writers attached to it and everything. But from what I can find, the writers wanted to portray Aegon as a drunk and aggressive character. So I'm glad that this pitch was rejected as well. Could you imagine Aegon the Conqueror, probably the greatest Targaryen that ever lived, portrayed in such a manner? The idea for a series centered around Aegon's conquest never fully fled the minds of HBO, but Entertainment Weekly reported a couple months ago that it was definitely not happening anytime soon. The third spin-off we'll discuss today, and the last live-action one, is Flea Bottom. The series is mentioned once in a Deadline article in 2021, and that's about all the information we have. Flea Bottom is a slum of King's Landing, the poorest part of the city. Characters that were born here include Sir Davos Seaward, the Onion Knight, King Robert's bastard son Gendry, and Sir Duncan the Tall. But what could this spin-off be about? We can only speculate. It could be focused on the life of Davos Seaward growing up and how he became a smuggler. This could mean that they would show us parts of Robert's rebellion through the eyes of the population of King's Landing. It could also be an original story altogether. All I know is, the fact that we did not hear anything in the last 2 years does not bode well for this spin-off still being in production. Projects like these never stay secret for a long time. The last 3 spin-offs we will discuss today are animated series, and we only know the name of one of them. In 2021, The Hollywood Reporter brought us the news about this series in development and told us that one of them would be centered in Yi. George R.R. Martin confirmed this in 2022 and told us that the working title for this series is The Golden Empire. There are writers attached to the project and concept art has already been made, which means that this series could actually be coming to televisions worldwide. Story-wise, we know very little, only its location. We don't see Yi in Game of Thrones, and we don't visit it in the books either. We do have some information concerning the faraway land though. Yi is the Westerosi equivalent of Imperial China and the Far East in our own world. Situated between the city of Kard and the Jade Gates to the west, and the city of Ashai and the Shadowlands to the east, Yi is said to be one of the oldest, if not the oldest civilization in the known world. It has never been conquered, and because of that its culture is considered ancient. After the fall of the fabled Great Empire of the Dawn during the Long Night, which also affected Yi, the country has been ruled by the Golden Empire, which gives us a little bit of direction of where on the timeline the story could take place. But keep in mind, this still is a period of roughly 8,000 years, which makes the possibilities quite endless. Yi is described by outsiders as the land of 1,000 gods and 100 princes, who are ruled by one god emperor, as is the title of the ruler of the Golden Empire. Yi's location in the known world could mean we get to see more of the mysterious city of Ashai and the Shadowlands, or the island of Leng to the south, ruled by god empresses. It could also show us more of the Jogos Nai, a nomadic people like the Dothraki, or the patrimony of Hirkun, a society of city-states famous for its warrior women. Whatever path they choose with this animated series, I am quite looking forward to it, and I hope you are as well. Which means that we have now discussed all Game of Thrones spin-offs that are currently in production or have been in production in the past. As I quite enjoyed reading about and discussing them with you, I would like to propose some of my own suggestions for Game of Thrones spin-offs in future videos. And so I would like to ask you today, what are your suggestions for future Game of Thrones spin-offs? Please let me know and maybe I can cover your ideas in future videos. If you like this video, please subscribe and don't forget to drop a like for the algorithm. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope to see you next time as well.